It's gonna.
Yeah. Speaking of the VR thing, I was just talking about how I got this nifty little 360 camera. It's made by LG, and I just started recording with it right now. So there's going to be like a little virtual reality experience. I'll send you a link to it once we wrap it up. I don't know if you have one of those headsets or anything, but it's kind of neat. But the thing was cheap. I mean, and it's shooting in like I guess it's 2.5K resolution, so the resolution's pretty high, and I think the thing cost me like $99, if that. I mean, so it's becoming available like rapidly to have high resolution, 360-degree capable cameras. That I mean, there's gonna be some crazy shit that happens in the next couple of years. I think.
Yeah, I'm a laborer myself, so that worries me. Yeah.
Yeah, well, I think at some point in time, it's going to be necessary to. I mean, because once these type of labor jobs and factory jobs are taken over by automatons, it's going to be. I mean, your average. I mean, what else could you do? I mean, you can't just let everybody starve. It's going to end up. I mean, we we're going to have to take care of people. Which I don't. I mean, I don't really see a problem with that either. In that, I mean, if everything's getting done and everything is being produced and by robots, and then at that point, I mean, we really don't have to work. I mean, if I could make a robot,
It's Wally.
yeah. I mean, if I could make a robot that did every task that I'm capable of doing, um, by itself, and I could send it to work in place of me, and it did its job fine, and then I still got a check at the end of the day, then I guess I really wouldn't have to work either. And I mean, technology's kind of going that direction. Yeah, and I mean, between virtual reality, it's like you were talking about sex. I mean, there's an entire industry right now trying its hardest to figure out how to make a fucking sex robot too, which is that's the one that's gonna blow everything up for sure. That's what's gonna push the entire industry forward. I mean, because obviously sex sells. So that's I mean that's kind of the driving force behind everything. Hmm. The internet as well. I think I'm not going to quote any statistics because I don't have them in front of me, but it's some sort of or some overwhelming percentage of all the traffic on the internet is supposed to be pornography, which is not surprising in the least.
Yeah, I don't. I get what you're saying. Exactly. Yeah. Where's the money coming from?
I'm assuming it's ad revenue. You think? Well, I mean, I mean, just about every website. I mean, there's all sorts of ads plastered all over everything on the internet. And well, I mean, it's the kind of the same thing with YouTube. I mean, there's millionaires that are people that just run YouTube channels. You know, so it's
That's a really good point.
I'm assuming that that's got to be. I mean, well, it's like you said. Where else is the money coming from for it to continue to exist? Mm-hmm. Maybe it's exactly the same way, and they do live shows, and we just don't know about it.
You brought up music. I'd like to pull up the actual statistic, but I stumbled on an article probably like a month ago that said that vinyl for the first time has outsold this year every other source of
Downloads and CDs and
obtaining music, yeah, which is even over MP3. That's really surprising if that's true. But I mean, my parents have a bunch of records that they gave me. I got myself like a little Crosley. I buy a new vinyl every now and then. I like going into old record shops and stuff. It's cool. I just like the album art and stuff. It's just, you hold it in your hand and I mean, it makes for cool artwork. I saw, when I was in college, there was this one dude who would show up to like our main student hangout area and try and sell a bunch of stuff, and he would sell like these cool frames where you could put your records in and like change them out for just like having different things to look at around the house, I guess, as far as album art. I thought it was cool. So
yeah, my wife asked specifically for a vinyl for Christmas, and I was like, oh, yeah, I mean, it's kind of. I mean, I don't think people are really playing them very much. I think it's more of like a collector's type thing. But. Yeah, I mean, there are people certainly using record players or phonographs for the audio files, but for the most part, I don't think very many people are listening to. I mean, it's my wife also. It's weird, for the first time ever. Actually, this Christmas as well, I got her a collector's edition, like a cassette of music that I don't even think was around when cassettes were popping. So she got that, and meanwhile, she's not listening to that either. It comes with a download code that you just download all the music that was on the cassette, and it's just kind of a collector's piece, which is, it's cool and all, but it is interesting. It's kind of a weird concept, like you said. And due to the nature of technology itself, the rate of acceleration is just continually going up. So it's becoming stranger and stranger as it goes on, and I feel like it's just going to be, 10, 20 years from now, it's going to be just really weird. Like how how there's going to be so many different ways that you could potentially make money, and then it's going to be constantly changing on top of that. I mean, as it is already right now. Yeah, well, I mean, here's a question for you. I don't know if you know statistically off the top of your head, but where do you stand, like, with your books that you've written, as far as, like, audiobook downloads versus, like, Kindle Reader style downloads versus, like, paper copies?
Yeah.
Just going down the aisle and just see your book and picks it up. There's really not a whole lot that publishers can do for you that social media can't do. So, I mean, it's still happening at the highest level of the game. Yes, it's still a big deal, of course. But that game is shrinking. You know, for every Harry Potter out there, there are like a gazillion books that don't sell at all. And so that game is changing quickly, which is why a lot of people are flirting with the notion of self-publishing instead of publishing through the traditional channels. Same thing with recording labels, same thing with a lot of other form of media. But that's still not easy, because just because you reach a big audience doesn't mean that you're going to be able to make money out of it in this non-traditional formula. I mean, think about podcasting. You know, you need to have an insanely high audience to actually make money on it. Because while people say, oh, you only need 5,000 people who are listening to you and then buy your stuff, the reality is that the people who are actually going to put money down are a tiny percentage of people who are going to consume what you put out there for free. So the numbers need to be big, because the reality is that you're not going to be able to get a very large percentage of people who listen to you, even on an absolutely regular basis, to commit 1 cent to anything you do.
Yeah, we know that all too well. Not that we're trying to become rich from podcasting, but it's just a fun hobby. Get to talk to interesting people like Daniele Bolelli, but I mean, it would be really cool to just wake up tomorrow and have Amazon deposit $500,000 in my bank account, but it's not really reality. It's like you said. I mean, we're hoping to just produce something interesting that people want to listen to, which
and that is definitely. I mean, that's the beauty of the new technologies, that you can do things that you could not do not so long ago in a great way, in an absolutely great way, and you can reach people that you would have never been able to reach a few years ago. So it's positives and negatives. It's no surprise, both things are true at the same time.
Yeah. Hey, so did you see or hear about the Hollywood sign, I guess, this morning?
Yeah. So that's funny.
Yeah, it was pretty ridiculous. I'm wondering, I want to know kind of the mechanics of how they pulled that off. I mean,
I know.
Each one of those letters is like 15 or 20 feet tall, isn't it?
It's huge. That's why that was some serious work. I don't know how they pulled it off. At first, when I first saw it today, I thought it was a Photoshop thing. Then I realized, no, that's the real deal. And I don't know how they did it. That's pretty cool, though.
Yeah, I mean, it's I think it's that marijuana ingenuity. It's I don't know how they pulled that off. Did you see this, Lloyd?
Yeah,
it was awesome. Pretty crazy. I mean, it's just kind of funny. And of course, the first thing that I read about is like, they want to charge somebody with something, which of course, that's to be expected. It is vandalism, but
yeah, but it's misdemeanor. When at first they have to catch them, then it's a misdemeanor. It's
I don't see much coming out of it, but pretty funny. I mean, it's pretty good stuff. I guess what is it today at a some sort of sporting event? Something happened with Dakota Access Pipeline protesters climbing up some sort of up into the rafters of some sort of sports venue and dropping down a banner asking
did not hear about it.
I just saw this actually, yeah, right before we hit go on the show earlier. Apparently, some protesters climbed up in the rafters of some sporting event. I'm sure somebody will chime in and tell us where it was or what the sporting event was, but and just dropped down a banner that said something U.S. Bank divest, and then a hashtag no DAPL type thing.
Okay, gotcha.
Me and you were talking the other week when we were talking about getting together and doing another show. We were talking briefly about the Dakota Access Pipeline. I know you have some pretty strong opinions on the whole thing.
I mean, to me, the whole Dakota Access Pipeline, of course, it's an important story, but it's obviously bigger than that. It really is about the whole fossil fuel industry issue. And the fact is that it's almost secondary about this specific pipeline or not. I mean, it is a big deal in terms of tribal rights and all of that. But the big issue is dependency on fossil fuels is suicidal. It's just not something that we should be encouraging. And it's, of course, impossible at an individual level to step out of it, to say, okay, I'm going to stop driving a car or using anything petroleum-based or carbon-based, because so much of our civilization is built on it. And yet, at the same time, the reality of it is that, A, it's a dying industry because there's less and less of the resource every single day, B, there's the issue of the fact that not only it's a non-renewable resource of which there's less on Earth every single day that goes by, but also it's monstrously polluting, whether you're talking about coal, whether you're talking about oil, or whether you're talking about any of these things are extremely polluting, both the digging process as well as the burning process.
Mm-hmm.
These are not things that are sustainable long term. Even assuming that he wasn't polluting at all, it's still we need to figure out a solution because we only have so many years to run our civilization on this thing that's disappearing. But on top of it, the fact that he's a highly polluting in the process and we are paying a toll every single day, that makes dependency on this thing completely insane. Now, this does not mean that once we realize that we have an easy solution that if we just switch tomorrow, because of course, looking at new technologies is messy. It's complicated. It's going to require a ton of money, investing, screwing up, trying one thing, it doesn't work, try the next, until we can figure out something so that our civilization can run in a way that doesn't require a monstrous drop in quality of life, and at the same time doesn't screw up the very conditions that make life possible on Earth.
I agree 100%, but it's the biggest problem I think that I have with the entire argument is that it seems like one side is just completely just doesn't understand that things like solar, wind, I mean, these things work. People, and also there's an entire cross section of humanity that seems to believe that you can dump all the carbon you want into the atmosphere and it's just going to go away.
Sure.
Where, I mean, things like the greenhouse effect are, this is well-known science. I mean, we know how this works. You can, if you build a box in your backyard and put a piece of clear plastic over the top of it, put a temperature probe in the box and a temperature probe on the outside of the box, guess what? Inside the box, it's a lot hotter. I mean, this is people just think that the carbon dioxide is just what goes into space or something. I mean, what happens is we're taking carbon that's locked in a solid or a liquid form in the crust of